As the beta of the Night Guardians, Chriselda Turner uncovers a secret that could change her destiny. Her true mate is the alpha of a rival pack. But as she tries to approach him, things aren't as simple as she'd hoped. Is she able to convince him to accept her, or is she just another Angelina in his eyes? Want to know how Chriselda wins over her alpha? Subscribe to get updates first. Chapter 1. When will I find my mate? My friend Ciara asks me while we continue to walk in the forest, away from our houses so that no one can hear our conversation. You're asking me as if I'm the goddess of wolves. I don't know when you'll find your mate, I say. I look up at the night sky full of stars. Don't you want to find your mate? She questions. I do, but I'm not in a hurry, I answer with a smile. I believe that I'll find my mate at the right place and at the right time. Who do you think your mate will be? A beta. Just because I'm a beta doesn't mean that my mate will also be a beta. He can be a wolf without a rank. I'm the beta of my pack, the Night Guardians. My father was the beta of this pack, but when he was killed in a battle, I had to take over because there wasn't a male in our family to take over the position. Many people were after the beta position. They opposed to the idea of me becoming the beta of the pack. They said that the pack will look weak if a female becomes the beta. But Mr. Hale had complete faith in me. When I had doubts about myself, he was the one who told me that I would be a perfect beta to the pack. And to prove to the people that I deserved to be the beta, I started training hard. Mr. Hale, former alpha, trained me. Under his guidance, I proved to the people that I'm not just a weak female wolf. I proved to be much stronger than them. I'm proud of myself and of my accomplishments. Ciara and I stop at the boundary of our pack. If we walk further, then we would be in another state and on the territory of the strongest werewolf pack in the world, the Dawnfall Depths. It is said that if a werewolf not belonging to their pack steps in their territory, then they straightaway kill him. I watch Ciara looking at their territory. Is it possible that my mate belongs to the Dawnfall Depths pack? She asks. It may be possible, I say. Chris, I want to go there, she says, using my nickname. If you want to go there, then you'll have to tell Alpha Matthew to inform the Alpha of Dawnfall Depths pack that you want to search for your mate in their pack. Can we talk to Alpha Matthew about it tomorrow morning? So eager, I tease her while nudging at her elbow. She just pushes me away from her as I watch the blush spreading over her cheeks. I can't help but laugh at her. My laugh echoes in the forest. We turn around and head back to our houses. I'm still laughing while Ciara is trying to silence me. Can you stop laughing? People will hear us and then scold us for roaming near the boundary in the middle of the night, she says as she brings her hand to cover my mouth. I push her hand away. I gesture towards the empty forest surrounding us. Ciara, no one will hear us because no one lives here. We're not even close to the pack houses. I want to say more, but I feel a sharp pain behind my head. Feels as if I'm hit with something. I hear Ciara screaming my name before I fall on the ground. My vision starts to blur. I focus on Ciara, who quickly comes to my side. She is shaking me violently, trying to keep me conscious. Then a man comes in my view. He smirks at me wickedly. Somehow that smirk is familiar. When I focus on that man's face, I realize who he is. Tim. I once beat him because he tried to forcefully mate with Ciara. I look at his hand. He has a thick tree branch with him. The pain in my head intensifies. That bastard hit me with the branch. I'm going to kill him. I try to get up, but my body feels heavy. Ciara tries to help me get up, but Tim pulls her away from me. I see her struggling in his hold. My blood starts to boil seeing his filthy hands on my friend. I see Tim throwing the branch away and dragging Ciara towards the boundary. Before I slip into unconsciousness, I see that they have crossed the boundary. I slowly open my eyes and find myself lying on the ground. I start coughing as I breathe the dirt. I slowly make myself sit on the ground. My head feels so heavy. I can still feel a little pain at the back of my head. As I rub the spot, my gaze falls on a nearby tree branch on the ground. It has some blood on it. My blood. I bring my hand in front of me and see no blood on my hand. My wound must have healed. Suddenly I feel okay, like nothing happened to me. The wind blows in my direction and I smell Ciara's scent. If I can still smell her, that means I wasn't unconscious for long. I can still get to her, using her scent to guide me. Along with her scent, I can also smell Tim. I just feel like vomiting as his scent fills my nostrils. I try to focus more on Ciara's scent. I quickly get up from the ground. I run towards Ciara's scent, which leads me to the land of the Dawnfall Depths pack. I think of turning into a werewolf to get to her fast, but then I won't have any clothes to wear if I want to turn back into my human form. So, I decide against turning into a werewolf and focus on running fast. I am the second fastest runner in my pack, the first being Alpha Matthew. I run towards Ciara's scent but stop dead on my tracks when I see 5 men emerging from the trees. They must have smelled my scent. They look so tough. Their toughness reminds me that I'm not in my land anymore. I'm in their land. They can kill me anytime. The men are not wearing anything except their shorts. I would have been intimidated by their huge muscles, but since I'm a beta, I have my own strength and power. And I'm not scared by the 5 men coming towards me. Stay where you are, the man standing in the middle says. Power is radiating through him. When he comes closer, I realize that he must be the beta. I obey him while the other 4 men surround me. I'm Beta Chriselda Turner of the Night Guardians, your neighboring pack, I start to say. A rogue named Tim dragged my friend Ciara here on your territory. He wants to forcefully mate with her. I need to save my friend. I calmly say, but I'm scared from the inside, scared for Ciara. I hope she's okay, I hope she's not hurt. Realization crosses on the beta's face. Does he know Tim? The wind starts to blow again. The wind is so strong that I feel as if I'm going to fly away with the wind. Tonight is really a windy night. The dirt from the ground starts flying in the air, along with the dry leaves. I shield my eyes from the dirt. When the wind settles down, I remove my hand from my eyes. I can see a figure approaching us. He is away from me, but still I can feel the power radiating from him. And I know at once that he is the Alpha. When he comes closer, my heart starts beating faster. His brown hair is in a mess due to the wind. I watch his muscles flex as he walks towards me. He comes to stand directly in front of me. He is looking at me passively, without any emotions. When I look in his blue eyes, I see his wolf calling out to my wolf. And that's when I realize that he's my mate. Chapter 2. For a few minutes we continue to look at each other. I can't believe that the Alpha of the Dawnfall Depths pack is my mate. The Alpha of the strongest werewolf pack in the world is my mate. I look in his eyes. I can still see his wolf. He quickly blinks his eyes and his wolf vanishes. He hid his wolf from me. But why? Instead of loving eyes of my mate, I find his cold eyes staring at me. His face holds no emotions. There's not even a hint of happiness on his face. Hasn't he realized that I'm his mate? He turns to look at his beta. What's the situation? He asks in his firm voice. She's the beta of our neighboring pack, the Night Guardians. She says that a rogue named Tim wants to forcefully mate with her friend and has dragged her in our land. She has come to rescue her friend, the beta informs. The Alpha looks back at me. How does the rogue look like? I tell him about Tim's height, hair and clothes. Tim, the Alpha says. Does he know Tim? Beta Charles, search for the rogue. Take the men along with you, Alpha commands his beta. Beta Charles nods. The beta starts walking towards the forest, probably where the pack houses are. The 4 men who were surrounding me also follow him. I also want to help them in rescuing my friend, but I don't think that I'm allowed to do so because the Alpha didn't say that I can go with the beta. I think that the Alpha doesn't trust me. Now I am left alone with him. When he looks at me again, I look at the ground because I can't bring myself to look in his hard eyes. Seems as if he hates me. But what have I done? I can feel his intense gaze on me. It's making me uncomfortable. I want to tell him to stop looking at me, but I don't think that he'll listen. After all, he's an Alpha and Alphas never listen to anybody. Chris. I hear a familiar voice shout my name. I turn my head in that direction and see my friend running towards me with tears in her eyes. I also see Tim struggling in the hold of the men. The men drag him to the Alpha. The Alpha and Tim are now standing face to face. The Alpha starts glaring at him, which frightens Tim. Tim quietly starts struggling with the silver handcuffs on his wrists, but in vain. He won't be able to break away from the silver handcuffs because silver makes werewolves weak. Ciara engulfs me in a hug. I notice that she's shaking. When I pull away from the hug, I start examining her and look for any bruises on her body, but I find none. Relief washes over me. Thank God you're okay, I say as I hug her again. When we pull away from the hug, I wipe away her dry tears. Just because I banished you from my pack doesn't mean that you can force yourself on someone who doesn't belong to my pack. Tim, I warned you that if I find you doing something wrong, then I'll kill you, Alpha says in his deadly voice. Tim starts shaking violently with fear. He joins his hands in a prayer manner as he pleads, I'm sorry, Alpha. I won't do it again. That's what you said before, Alpha says. Ciara and I are shocked when we see the Alpha bringing his hand towards Tim's wrists and breaking the silver handcuffs. How did he break those handcuffs? Tim would have made a run to escape, but Alpha's men were holding him. He tried to break away from their hold, but the men were stronger than him. Alpha brings his hand towards Tim's throat and lifts him in the air. Tim starts struggling to free his throat from the Alpha's strong grip. His feet start shaking. He brings his hands and tries to get the Alpha's hand away from his throat, but in vain. Within seconds, Tim starts suffocating. He starts taking long breaths, trying to breathe in as much air as he can to survive. His face starts to turn blue. Ciara shakes me, trying to get my attention. Chriselda, he's going to kill him. Do something. I don't want Tim to die because of me, she say in her panicking state. I know her very well. She won't like if someone's blood is on her hands, even if that someone tried to force himself on her twice. She pushes me towards the Alpha. I helplessly stand as I see Tim struggling to breathe. Please stop, I plead, and at once, the Alpha releases his grip on Tim's throat and Tim falls on the ground with a loud thud. I watch him breathing rapidly, trying to get air in his lungs. Lock him in prison cell and make sure that he rots there, the Alpha commands two of his men. Those men nod and then step towards Tim. They lift him up by his arms and start dragging him away. Alpha turns to Beta Charles and the remaining two men escort the Beta and her friend safely to their pack. Beta Charles and the men nod and Alpha starts walking deep in his forest, probably towards the pack houses without even sparing a glance in my direction. My eyes catch the sight of his burnt hand. His hand must have burnt when he broke those silver handcuffs. When silver comes in contact with the werewolf skin, it burns the skin and also causes unbearable pain. Burns caused by silver take longer to heal. How was the Alpha able to withstand such pain? He didn't even flinch when his hand touched the handcuffs, and he was able to break it. How is that possible? Beta Chriselda, Beta Charles calls to my attention. I look at him. He gestures for me and Ciara to walk. We both start walking in the direction of our pack while Beta Charles and his two men follow behind us. When we reach near our territory, I see Alpha Matthew and other people near the boundary. Alpha Matthew is relieved when he sees me walking towards him. Beta Charles and the two men also follow behind me. Alpha Matthew, Beta Charles says as he bows down along with his men in a gesture of greeting. Beta Charles, Alpha Matthew nods at him. Then he turns to face me and asks, where were you, Beta Chriselda? It's a long story which I intend to tell you in private, Alpha Matthew, I say. He understandingly nods at me. I turn to Beta Charles and say, thank you for escorting us back to our land. He gives me a polite smile. He nods at Alpha Matthew and leaves with his men. I'll just accompany Ciara to her house and then I'll meet you in the pack house, I say to the Alpha. He nods. Ciara and I proceed towards the direction of her house while the other men start towards their respective homes. After dropping Ciara at her house, I head towards the pack house. The pack house is shared by Alpha Matthew, Gamma Darius, and myself. Gamma is the third in command. When I knock at the wooden door, Gamma Darius answers. I didn't find you near the boundary tonight, I say to him. Someone had to take care of the pack house, he says, and I nod. Matt was worried about you, he says, using our Alpha's nickname. The Alpha, Gamma, and I are so used to each other that we are on first-name basis. It's only when we are outside the pack house that we call each other by our titles. According to Matt, it is to maintain professionalism. He's waiting for you in his study, Darius informs me. Come. He leads me to Matt's study. We both enter the study and find Matt waiting for us as he stands in front of his desk. Chapter 3. Matthew is standing in front of his desk. Darius soon joins him and I'm left alone at the doorway. That traitor. I close the door behind me. When I gave you permission to go near the boundary with your friend, I didn't expect you two to just vanish into thin air. I was worried about you, Chriselda, Matt says, calling me by my first name, which is not a good thing. He always calls me by my nickname inside the pack house. He continues, Chriselda, you are my beta, and when my beta doesn't return to the pack house before midnight, then I tend to get worried. I know that's all I can think of saying. So, would you tell me what happened? He asks as Darius listens silently. Tim happened, I say. Tim? Matt asks with confusion. That same confusion is plastered across Darius' face. It's not like they don't know who Tim is. It's just that they're wondering how and why did Tim's name pop up all of a sudden. They both know that Tim is a rogue who once tried to forcefully mate with Ciara. What do you mean? Matt asks. I start telling them everything. I leave the part about the alpha of our neighboring pack being my mate for now. Chriselda, if you weren't the beta of this pack, then they would have killed you the moment you stepped on their land, Matt speaks up. They could have killed a non-rank holding werewolf without even thinking twice. I know, I say as I hung my head low. But I was just trying to save my friend. You could have come to me and we could have gone there to save Ciara, Matt reasons with me. It would have been too late if I had come to you for help. That's all I say. Matt remains silent for a while. He sighs and says to me, you were doing what you felt was right. I slightly nod. And dead silence falls in the study. So, you mean to say that Tim belonged to the Dawnfall Depths pack and their alpha had banished him? Darius, who was silent since we first stepped in the study, asks me, breaking the silence. Yes, I answer. He must have tried to forcefully mate with someone in their pack. That must be the reason for his banishment, Matt suggests. Maybe I shrug my shoulders. Tim is mentally unstable. He should be sent to a hospital, Darius seriously comments. Matt and I can't agree more. Next time be careful, Chris, Matt says to me. Matt, you know that I would have kicked Tim's ass if that prick hadn't attacked me from behind, I say in my defense. I don't like being called careless. It's one of the words that other men, who want beta's position, use to show that a she-wolf doesn't deserve to be the beta of this pack. They are greedily after my position. That's the reason why I didn't want to talk to Matt near the boundary where other men were present. I know, Matt says. It's really late now. Let's call it a night. Darius yawns just in time. Yeah, I'm sleepy. We exchange good nights and retire to our own rooms. When I lie on my bed and close my eyes, the icy blue eyes of the alpha haunt me. My eyes were open before the sunrise. I couldn't sleep well. Throughout the night I kept tossing and turning in my bed. I kept thinking about the alpha and his icy blue eyes. How can a person be so cold? How can a person be so emotionless towards his mate? His passionless face last night is making me doubtful about him being my mate at all. My brain says that he might not be my mate because he didn't embrace or kiss me. He didn't even stop me from going back to my pack. A werewolf who has just found about his mate will never do such a thing. A werewolf who has just found his mate would always try to keep her in front of his sight. Unfortunately, that was not the case with me. The alpha, my mate, didn't even spare a glance in my direction when I was leaving his land. I'm damn sure that he's my mate. When I looked in his eyes last night, I saw his wolf calling out to my wolf. And I know that seeing his wolf in his eyes was not my imagination for sure. I suddenly sit on my bed. I can't believe that I'm obsessing about the alpha whose name I don't even know. You must be calling me irresponsible for that, but I'm not. There are many werewolf packs in the world, and to remember the names of all the alphas, betas and gammas is a hard task. Plus our pack, the Night Guardians, never socialized with the Dawnfall Depths pack. They are not a friendly pack, that's what I've heard. Matt has only met with their alpha once and he told me that their alpha truly lives up to his title. Shaking my head, I force myself to not think about the alpha anymore. I force myself to get up from the bed. After last night my bones are so tired. I didn't even fight with anyone yet I'm feeling tired. Maybe my sleepless night has something to do with my tiredness. I enter my bathroom, take shower and brush my teeth. When I'm dressed up in simple t-shirt and shorts, my stomach starts grumbling. I'm tired with no energy left in me and I'm hungry. What could be more worse? Oh yeah, when your mate doesn't even express a tiny fraction of emotion when he sees you. I have a feeling that I'm going to be grumpy throughout the day. I hope I'm wrong. I head towards the kitchen. There's a marble counter in the center. On the counter, there are apples along with other fruits kept in a basket. I take the stool kept aside and sit on it as I make a grab for the apples. When I grab the first apple, Darius enters the kitchen. Good morning, he says as he heads straight for the refrigerator and opens it. It wasn't a good morning for me, I say as I take a bite. Darius closes the refrigerator door, and I see the orange juice carton in his hand. It's his habit to drink juice daily. He grabs a glass from the cabinet and pours the orange juice in his glass while I chew on my apple. He brings a stool and sits adjacent to me. When he looks at me, he notices the dark circles under my eyes. You didn't sleep well last night? He asks. Yeah, I say and continue to devour the apples. I don't keep a count on how many apples I've eaten. I'm just too hungry to do that. When I'm about to take a bite of another apple, I feel Darius gaze on me. I look at him. What? I ask when I find an amused expression plastered across his face. I'm just wondering that how can so many apples get inside that small stomach of yours? I shrug and say I'm just hungry. You should see yourself. You're eating like a pig, he playfully says, and I shove him. I am not. I defend myself. Good morning, Matt says to both of us as he enters the kitchen. Good morning. Darius replies with the same happy tone. Morning, I say. Matt looks at me and asks, you didn't sleep last night. Are my dark circles really that evident? Something like that, I say. He takes his stool and sits adjacent to me. Is it because of the events that happened last night? He asks. You can say that, I answer. He thinks that I didn't sleep because of Tim kidnapping my friend. What he doesn't know is that my insomnia has got nothing to do with Tim. It's because of that alpha whose name I don't know. Matt, I look at him. What's the name of the alpha of the Dawnfall Depths pack? Chapter 4. Matt looks at me with disbelief. Chris, you have to be kidding me. You don't know the name of the alpha of our neighboring pack. Matt, it's not my fault. There are so many alphas in the world that it's a hard task to remember all of their names. I defend myself. Matt addresses Darius. Why don't you tell her the alpha's name? I look at Darius and find him clueless. Actually, he starts saying as he scratches his head. I also don't know his name. A chuckle escapes my mouth while Matt looks at Darius with double amount of disbelief. Unbelievable, Matt says as he shakes his head at Darius. Now will you tell me the alpha's name? I ask. His name is Ulrich West. And he is a strong alpha, Matt says. What makes you say that? Is it because he's the alpha of the strongest pack in the world? No, it's not that, Chris. Trust me, I've seen that guy fight. He can fight an entire army of werewolves, he says, and proceeds to ask me, do you remember the battle that we had with the Silver Moonstone pack? Yes, the battle where my dad died, I reply. Darius' dad also died in that battle. The Silver Moonstone attacked us with the intention of taking over our pack. But Alpha Ulrich intervened in our fight, and it's because of him that we're enjoying our freedom. He saved our pack from getting ruled by a cruel alpha, Matt says as he recalls the battle. He doesn't seem like a savior to me, I mumble to myself, but obviously Matt and Darius hear me due to their werewolf hearing. What makes you think that? Asks Matt. Have you seen his eyes? They are so cold. He wasn't like that always, Darius says. I look at him, hinting him to explain further. I heard that he was a cheerful kid, he continues, but something happened in his childhood that made him who he is now. What happened? I'm quick to ask. Only the people who are close to him know, he answers. Matt, Darius and I continue to sit in silence for a while, thinking what could have happened to Alpha Ulrich in his childhood. Now, I have a partial idea about why my mate is cold-hearted. I just don't know the exact reason. Also, I want to know why he refuses to acknowledge me as his mate. For knowing the answer, I will have to talk to him. It is noon and I already had my lunch. Currently, I am staring back at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I find no dark circles under my eyes. I'm dressed up to head towards the Dawnfall Depths pack to talk to Alpha Ulrich West. When I enter the living room, I see Matt and Darius sitting lazily on the sofa, watching an action movie. I'm going out, I say as I reach for the front door. Where? Asks Matt as he continues to look at the TV. I'll tell you when I'll return back, okay? If I tell him that I'm going to meet Alpha West, then he'll ask me why, and I don't want to tell him the reason. Not until I have all my questions answered by the heartless Alpha himself. Why don't you tell me where you're going? At least, I'll have a place to search for you when you don't return till midnight, he says while playing the guilt card on me. Okay. I know you were worried about me when I didn't return to the pack house last night. But Matt, you don't need to worry. I am capable of taking care of myself, I try to assure him. Chris, I know that you're capable of taking care of yourself, but you should know that I'll always be worried about you. You're my beta and my friend, and I don't want you to get hurt. I care about you. Seeing his concern for me, I finally decide to tell him where I'm going. I'm going to meet Alpha Ulrich. Why? I knew Matt would ask this. I'll tell you when I'll return, I say, opening the front door and exiting the pack house quickly, not giving Matt the chance to ask any more questions. But I was wrong. He mindlinks me. When will you return? I mindlink him back. Before evening. If I'll be late, I'll inform you. Matt doesn't try to contact me again through mindlink. Mindlink is an amazing feature that high-ranking werewolves have. We can talk with each other through our minds, but only when we are within a contacting range. But mindlink also has its disadvantages. For example, if an alpha doesn't want to talk to anyone, then he can block people's voices from his mind. Whereas no one will be able to block his voice from their minds. I continue to walk towards the boundary as I hear the crushing of dry leaves under my feet. I cross the boundary and set foot on the land of Dawnfall Depths Pack. I keep on walking deeper into the forests in hopes of finding the pack houses. I hope I'm on the right path. I take one more step and I'm greeted by the sight of Beta Charles. He comes walking up to me. Beta Chriselda, he greets me. Beta Charles, I nod at him. Can I know the reason for you gracing us by your presence in our land? He grins at me. I chuckle at the usage of his words. Nicely put, Beta Charles, I compliment him. Thank you. He removes his imaginary hat, bows down and puts his imaginary hat back on his head. I'm little surprised by his cheerful behavior. You weren't this cheerful last night, I say, lifting my eyebrow. That was because I didn't know you. I saw you as a possible threat to my pack, he answers. And now you know me. Not really, he says, which makes me chuckle. He continues to say, but you seem to be a trustworthy person. I say. So you came here to have a friendly chat with me? He says, wiggling his eyebrows at me. I laugh. Not really. I came to talk to your alpha. What do you want to talk to him? He asks curiously. He must be thinking that why does a beta of another pack wants to talk to his alpha? That's for him to know, I answer. Can you lead me to his pack house? I request. Okay. Beta Charles starts leading the way. He has a concentrated look on his face which tells me that he has already informed Alpha Ulrich about my arrival through mindlink. The reason why I didn't want Alpha Ulrich to know that I'm visiting him is because I didn't want to give him time to prepare himself to face me. But unfortunately, he knows that I'm visiting him. After walking for a while, a big pack house comes in my view. When we walk near to it, I feel my mate's presence inside the pack house. Beta Charles walks ahead of me as he opens the front door. After you, he says as he gestures for me to go inside. Beta Charles follows behind me inside. I don't see anyone when I look around. At first, it seems that only me and Beta Charles are in the house. Alpha is in his study, he tells me as he leads me there. When we reach in front of the door, Beta opens it and gestures for me to go inside. I thank him and get inside. When I look ahead of me, I see Alpha Ulrich standing behind his desk with the same expression of hatred on his face that I saw last night. From behind me, I hear the closing of the door. Beta Charles must have closed the door. I have a feeling that he has even left the pack house by now. Crap. Now, I'm in a room with the cold-hearted Alpha. What do you want? He harshly demands as he crosses his arms. Chapter 5. I grow angry at the fact that Alpha Ulrich demanded me instead of asking me what I want from him. But I mask my anger. Now is not the time to get angry. I won't go round and round, I say calmly. I would like to come to the point, I say in a businesslike tone. Alpha Ulrich listens to me patiently. To be honest, I didn't think that the man is capable of having any patience. I know that you know I'm your mate. Now my question is, why didn't you claim me as your mate last night? You're not my mate, he says the moment I finish asking my question. I'm damn sure that I'm your mate. Last night I saw your wolf calling out to my wolf. I put my point forward. I'm a little annoyed because he's refusing to acknowledge me as his mate. You're one of those girls, aren't you? He asks. One of those girls. What do you mean? I ask with utter confusion. What does he mean? You're one of those girls who claim to be my mate so that you can get the Luna's position in the strongest pack in the world, he says in his harsh voice as he comes to stand in front of his desk. How dare you accuse me? I say, finally letting out my fury and rage. I am not after Luna's position. How could he even think that? That's what the other girl said, he says mockingly. I have a feeling that he's making all that up, which makes me even more angry. If you don't want me as your mate, then say it. I try to provoke him. You don't need to make up stupid stories to tell me that you don't want me. If you have guts, I don't want you as my mate, he coolly says before I can even finish my sentence. My heart is in pain when I hear those words. It feels as if my heart has been pierced with a rusted sword. I hide my pain from him because I don't think that he's even worthy to see me in pain. I am about to open my mouth and say something equally cruel to him, but he doesn't allow me to. I hope you've got the answers to your questions. Now it's time for you to leave. He strides towards me, grabbing my arm and dragging me out of his study. When I'm outside his study, he shuts the door at my face. I'm angry and I'm in pain. And to tell you the truth, it's a terrible combination of emotions. My eyes start brimming with tears because my pain overcomes my anger. But I won't let the tears escape my eyes. I won't give the alpha the satisfaction of making me cry. I blink back my tears and try to pretend as if I'm fine. I turn around and I see a man looking at me. He looks like the older version of the person who just kicked me out of his study seconds ago. And I know at once that the man looking at me is none other than Alpha Alaric's father. He has a pity look on his face, and that's enough to tell me that he has heard the conversation shared between me and his son. I try to give him a small smile, but I fail miserably. I make my way towards the front door. When I'm outside the pack house, I make a run towards my pack. I want to get away from the alpha as soon as possible. Within minutes I reach my land. I stop and take a breath. Running has made me breathless. The pain that I was feeling has reduced and is now overcome by my anger. I'm thankful to God for that. I'll rather be angry than being in pain. I walk towards the direction of the pack house. The sun is still shining brightly in the sky. I never thought that I'll be finished talking to Alpha Alaric before evening. I open the front door of the pack house. I enter and slam the door behind me. Hard. Fortunately, Matt and Darius are not in the living room. I straightaway go to the kitchen. I am angry and only a bucket of chocolate ice cream can cool me down. I open the refrigerator and take out the ice cream bucket. Next, I grab a spoon and make my way to the living room. I switch on the television and flip to a movie channel on which a slasher movie is being played. Today is my day. I sit on the sofa cross-legged, making myself comfortable as I keep the ice cream bucket on my lap. I start eating while watching the movie. After a few seconds, I hear footsteps from behind me. But I pretend as if I didn't hear anything and pretend to be engrossed in the movie. What happened to her? Darius asks in a whisper. I don't know, Matt whispers back. Is it safe to go near her? I don't hear Matt's reply. Instead, I'm greeted by his presence. He sits on my right side. I don't pay much attention to him. People getting killed on the TV seem more interesting to me. Seconds later, Darius joins us on the sofa, sitting on my left side. Great. Now I'm sandwiched between my two friends who would ask me their never-ending questions. What's up? Darius asks carefully. The ceiling, I deadpan. I'm in no mood of answering questions. I hear Matt sigh beside me. Chris, what happened? I ignore his questions as I continue to stuff my mouth with ice cream. You went to meet Alpha Alaric, right? On asking you why, you said that you'll tell when you return, he presses. I look at two of my friends who are sitting beside me and find their concerning eyes staring back at me. I sigh. I decide to finally tell them. Alpha Alaric is my mate. Both of them are shocked, just the expression that I was expecting from them. Congratulations. Darius says happily. He has rejected me, I say. Again they both are shocked. Matt shakes his head. He can't reject you. Rejections don't exist for werewolves. I don't know about that. He said that he didn't want me as his mate, I simply say. That's why I'm angry and eating ice cream to cool down my anger. They don't speak for a while. Maybe because they don't know the right words to say to me. Are you okay? Matt asks. I'm not okay, but I'm feeling better, I say honestly while hearing a woman scream from the television. He is an idiot for not wanting you as a mate, he says, trying to make me feel better than I already am. To be honest, I'm ready to spend my life being mateless than being the mate of an alpha who is heartless. I add later, let's not talk about it anymore. Both of my friends nod and we all finally focus on watching the movie. It's evening and I'm finished with watching the movie and eating ice cream. Currently, I'm in Matt's study along with him and Darius. A map of our territory is spread across the desk. We are discussing about increasing security since Tim attacked me last night. We are having a detailed discussion about who should be in the patrol team and at which places should the guards be placed at. Suddenly, we hear a knock at the front door. I'll go, I say while exiting the study and proceeding to open the front door. When I open it, I see Xavier, the leader of our patrol team. Mr. West is here to meet you, he informs me. Mr. West. As an Alpha Alaric's father. My internal question is soon answered when Xavier steps aside and I finally see Alaric's father, who is smiling kindly at me. May I come in? He asks. Chapter 6. I am surprised to see Alaric's father at my doorsteps. Come in, I say, inviting him inside the pack house. Who is it? Matt asks from his study. It's Alpha Alaric's father, I answer. After seconds, Matt and Darius emerge from the study. Mr. West, both of them greet him. Alpha Matthew, Gamma Darius. What are you doing here? Asks Matt. I came here to talk to your beta, Mr. West says, and then turns to me. May I have a word with you in private? Sure. You can go in my study and have your talk, Matt says as he and Darius leave the pack house to give us complete privacy. I lead Mr. West to Matt's study. I enter and he follows behind. Please have a seat, I say as I gesture towards one of the 2 chairs in front of Matt's desk. Mr. West proceeds to sit on the chair while I continue to stand. I know that you're my son's mate, he says. Somehow I'm not surprised. I already knew that he had heard the conversation that his son and I had, the way he was giving me a look of pity back at his son's pack house. I know. I want you to come with me to our pack and live with us, he says next. There's no point in living in your pack. Your son doesn't want me as his mate. But our pack needs you. Pack needs Aluna, he reasons with me. I'm sorry, Mr. West, but I'll rather be mateless than be your son's mate. Alaric will go insane if you're not near him. When a male wolf finds his mate, he always has a need to have his mate in front of him because male wolves are possessive creatures. And if he doesn't have his mate in front of him, then he'll always be worried, and all his worries about his mate will drive him crazy and make him insane. That's what Mr. West is implying. Or so I think. I don't think so, Mr. West. When your son and I finished talking, he was so eager to kick me out of his study, I say. I don't know why he's behaving like this, he says. But Chriselda, trust me, Alaric will go insane if you're not near him, and that won't be good for our pack. Mr. West, Alaric will not go insane and nothing bad will happen to your pack. I think he is capable of leading his pack without Aluna, I say. Since Alaric is the alpha of the strongest pack in the world, I don't doubt his leadership skills. But he needs you to carry down his bloodline. He needs to have a son who will lead the pack in the future. I'm not a breeding machine, I say, clearly getting offended by his statement. I'm sorry, he apologizes genuinely. I don't say anything. For a while he doesn't speak. You must be thinking of Alaric as cold-hearted and emotionless, but he wasn't always like that. He starts to say as he recalls some memories. Something bad happened in his life years ago which has pulled all his emotions out of him. I never see him smile or even laugh. I never see him happy. When I wish him for his birthday, all I get is a simple thank you, and that's it. I don't even get a tiny smile from him. I want my son back. And only you can do that. You are the only one who can fill emotions in my son. The only emotions that I'm capable of filling in your son are of hatred, annoyance, anger, and irritation. When your son sees me, he's filled with all these emotions, I say. And just because I'm your son's mate doesn't mean that I can get you back your son. Maybe not, but maybe you can, he says with some hope. And Chriselda, I would say this once again, our pack needs Aluna. I know you are firm on your decision, but don't you have the need to see your mate? A mate who is cold to me? Nope, I don't think so, says my brain. But, yes, screams my heart. He's my mate and my wolf desperately wants to see her mate again. Don't you? Mr. West presses. A little, I finally give in to answering him. A smile appears on his face. Then pack your things and come with me to my pack, he says. And if you don't like it there, then you can leave any time, he assures. I think upon his words. Sounds reasonable to me. But what about my pack? I'm a beta and I have my own duties, I say. I think Alpha Matthew will be able to manage without you for some time. If he needs you for some work, then you can come back here, finish your work, and then return to my pack. Isn't it reasonable? I slowly nod. He stands up, feeling happy. What are you waiting for? Go and pack your bags. I exit the study and go to my room and start packing clothes for 1 week. To be honest, I don't think I'll be able to survive living in my mate's pack for even a day. When I'm done packing, I take my bag and head to the living room where I find Mr. Wes talking to Matt and Darius. Matt comes towards me and puts his hand on my shoulder. If you need anything, then don't hesitate to call me. I look at him in confusion. I've told them everything, Mr. West informs me. He must have told Matt and Darius about my decision of going to the Dawnfall Depths pack for a while. I nod at Mr. West. If I would have told my two friends myself, then they would have asked me multiple questions. So, I'm thankful for Mr. West for doing that for me. Take care, I say, and hug Matt. You too, he says. Then, I proceed to hug Darius, saying the same thing to him. When I'm done with the goodbyes, Mr. West leads me to his pack. Mr. West opens the front door of Alaric's pack house. He gestures for me to walk inside first. I enter the pack house and look around the living room to find it empty. Where are the people? And most importantly, where is Alaric? Answering to my thoughts, Mr. West says Alaric has gone for some work. He will be back soon. I hope he doesn't return at all. Come, let me show you to your room, Mr. West says. I follow him to a room. When he opens the door, Alaric's scent hits me. This is your room. He gestures towards the neat and tidy room. No, this is Alaric's room, I state, still getting Alaric's scent from the empty room. Which happens to be your room too, since you're his mate, Mr. West implies. If I share a room with your son, then he will kick me out of his pack before you know it, I say. Mr. West ponders over my words. Plus, I won't be comfortable sharing a room with someone who denies to be my mate. Can I have my own room? He nods at me. He takes me to a room just beside Alaric's. Seriously. I don't want to be in Alaric's room, so you get me a room beside his. Looking at my face, Mr. West says, there are many rooms away from Alaric's, but I want you two to be as near to each other as possible. Maybe his behavior will change if you're near him. Okay, let's try his way. I personally don't think being near Alaric will help him in any way. He will get even more annoyed. I hear people entering the pack house. I hope Alaric is not one of them. After what happened in the noon, I'm not ready to see him yet. I think you should meet a few people, Mr. West says. I keep my bag on the double-sized bed and follow him to the living room. There are 3 people waiting for us, 2 men and a woman. One of the familiar faces is of Beta Charles. Mr. West and I are standing facing the 3 people. He starts saying to them, you must be wondering why I have called you here. Well, I have called you here to introduce Chriselda Turner. He gestures towards me, who is the beta of our neighboring pack and who also happens to be Alaric's mate. All the 3 people are shocked. I awkwardly wave at them. They don't respond. They are still in a state of shock. Why don't you all introduce yourselves to her? Mr. West says, breaking their state of shock. Beta Charles comes to me first. I'm Beta Charles Lewis, he says while shaking hands with me. After him, other male comes to me. While shaking my hand, he says, I'm Gamma Daniel Phillips. I smile at him. Lastly, a woman approaches me and says, Hi Chriselda. I'm Rosalind West, Alaric's mother. It's a pleasure to meet you, I say while I smile. She seems like a nice woman. You are so beautiful, she says genuinely. Not beautiful than you, I say, and we both laugh lightly. It's good to see mother-in-law and daughter-in-law bonding with each other, Mr. West remarks. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Isn't it too soon to be calling us that? Alaric doesn't even consider me as his mate, I say. Mrs. West, Beta Charles and Gamma Daniel are shocked. Again. I forgot to tell you one thing, Mr. West says to the shocked audience. Chriselda is Alaric's mate, but he is not ready to accept that, and I don't know why. I start getting looks of pity. Please don't look at me with sympathy, I request them all. Stop feeling sorry for me. It's night and Alaric hasn't returned yet. His parents and I are sitting on one side of the counter while Beta Charles and Gamma Daniel are seated on the other as we're having dinner. Do you and Mrs. West stay here at the pack house? I ask Mr. West. No, it's just for tonight, he answers. So that Alaric can't kick me out tonight. I say in my mind. Our light conversation is interrupted when Alaric enters the kitchen. When he sees me, he is shocked. Then he starts glaring at me. I look down at my plate and continue to eat. What is she doing here? He asks his father in a tone laced with anger. Chapter 7. She's your mate and she deserves to be here, Mr. West says calmly. She is not my mate, Alaric says slowly. He slams his hand on the counter next to Mr. West's plate. The counter shakes a little due to the impact. Ulrich exits the kitchen and I hear him saying she's trying to fool you all. Mr. West pushes his plate away, getting angry with his son's behavior. He gets up from the stool and leaves the kitchen. Everyone else in the kitchen has stopped eating except me. I continue to eat, not bothering about the heated argument that Mr. West is having with his son somewhere in the pack house. Due to my enhanced hearing, I'm able to hear their every word and so are others. Mr. West, you need to stop behaving like this. Ulrich, and you need to stop thinking that she is my mate. Mr. West, she is your mate. Why are you not accepting it? Ulrich, she is not my mate. She's trying to fool you all just like Angelina. Who is Angelina? Mr. West, she is not trying to fool us. Ulrich, that's what you think. Mr. West, Chriselda is your mate, and you need to respect her. Stop acting like a jerk. I don't hear Ulrich saying any further. So, I know that the heated argument is over. Mr. West comes back in the kitchen, sits on the stool and resumes eating. Everyone does the same. No one dares to talk again. Mrs. West gets up and takes out a plate from the cabinet. She puts food on the plate, preparing the food tray, probably for her son. Chriselda, can you take this to Ulrich's room? She requests as she gestures towards the tray. If I take the food to him, then he won't eat it, I say. He'll probably throw the food out his window. Mrs. West looks at me. She doesn't say anything because she knows I'm right. She just takes the food tray herself and exits the kitchen. An awkward silence falls during the dinner. After dinner, everyone retires to their rooms. I lie on my bed and try to sleep, but sleep doesn't come to me. I find it hard to sleep when I'm at any new place, so it takes time for me to adjust to my surroundings. I toss and turn in my bed trying to get some sleep, but after tossing and turning for a while, I finally give up on sleep. I sit on my bed and think of calling Matt, but if I call him, then he may get worried and may tell me to come back. And I'm not ready to go back to my pack yet. It will be too soon for me. The other person who I think of talking to in this late hour is Beta Charles. He seems like a friendly guy and I find it easy to talk to him. I remember the conversation that I had with him today in the noon. He can be my potential friend. I get up from the bed and proceed to go to Beta Charles's room. I hope he's awake. There's darkness in the pack house. I'm grateful that I'm a werewolf because werewolves have the ability to see in the dark. When I reach Beta Charles's room, I think of knocking at his door, but that may wake him up and others in the pack house. I turn the knob and open the door a little as I peek my head inside the room. The room is in darkness. Is he asleep? Beta Charles. I whisper, calling out to him. I see Beta Charles slowly opening his eyes. When he sees me, he is shocked. He immediately sits up, and that's when I notice him wearing only his boxer briefs. Blush spreads on my cheeks. I turn my head away from Beta Louis' partial naked body. From the corner of my eye, I see him covering himself with a pillow. Yes, Beta Chriselda, he says, and I turn my head towards him. I find him little embarrassed because of his underdressed state. Did I interrupt your sleep? I ask. Not at all, he says. Can I come in? Politely ask. Yeah, sure. I enter his room and close the door behind me. I go to his bed. He shifts and makes place for me to sit on his double-sized bed. Can I call you Charles? I ask. Yeah, sure, he replies. I sit on his bed and tell him I'm finding it hard to sleep. Then you should go and lie down beside Alpha Ulrich. I guarantee you'll fall asleep within seconds, he says. We both share a laugh. I wish that could be the case with me, I say. If your Alpha finds me lying on his bed, then he will push me off the bed. We talk a little until I find my back tired due to the sitting. Can I lie down on your bed? I ask. That would be inappropriate, he says. He is already lying on his bed. It's not like I'm asking to sleep with you, I say as I move him further to create some space for me to lie down. But, he starts to say, but I interrupt him. Chillax, I say as I lie down beside him. Ulrich will kill me if he sees you in my bed, he says. He won't. He doesn't even want me as his mate. So you don't need to worry about him. He doesn't say anything. I remember Mr. West and Ulrich mentioning about some Angelina when they were having a heated argument. Charles, who is Angelina? I dare to ask. She belongs to our pack and is obsessed with Ulrich, Charles tells me. She was so crazy for him that she even started claiming to be his mate. She even tried fooling Ulrich into believing that she is his mate. But Alaric didn't believe her. Oh, I say. So, Alaric thinks that I'm another Angelina. Yeah, something like that. Charles, do you think I'm Alaric's mate? Or do you think I'm pretending to be one? I ask him. I think that you're Alaric's mate, he answers. What makes you think that? Alaric's father believes that you are his son's mate. That's enough reason for me to believe that you're Alaric's mate and my Luna. Chriselda, Mr. West is a very smart man. Alaric says that you're trying to fool him, but no one can fool Mr. West. He was our alpha. He is experienced. By looking at any person, he can tell whether a person is lying or not. The thing that is important is to make Alaric believe that I'm his mate, I finally say. I open my eyes slowly, a yawn escaping my mouth. I stretch my hands and accidentally hit something. When I turn to my side, I see Charles sleeping soundly beside me on the bed. I instantly sit up. I look around and find myself in Charles's room. But I thought I had returned to my room. I must have been too sleepy to move my legs towards the direction of my room. I should quickly get out of here before anyone finds me in this room. It won't be good if the alpha's mate is found in his beta's room. I tiptoe towards the door so that Charles doesn't wake up. I exit his room and close the door behind me without making any noise. When I turn around, I see Alaric looking at me from a distance. Shit. Chapter 8. I regret Alaric's room and Charles's room being close to each other. You can't get me, so you're trying to get my beta? He asks cruelly. I am left disgusted at his words. I am not trying to get your beta, I say as I bite down my anger. I pass him to go to my room. Then why do I find you getting out of his room early in the morning? Did you have sex with him? He asks me harshly. How could he? Even he knows that I didn't have sex with his beta, because if I had, then I would have smelt differently. And I smell the same. When a werewolf mates with another werewolf, then their scent changes. I didn't have sex with your beta, and you clearly know that. I say as I point my finger at him. If he remains to be in front of me, then I will totally lose it. I quickly get inside my room and slam the door behind me. I think I'm going to explode with anger. Mrs. West, Beta Charles, Gamma Daniel and I are in the kitchen having breakfast. I quietly eat my cornflakes while they all are looking at me. What happened? Mrs. West asks me, concern laced in her voice. She senses that something is wrong with me. She is right. Alaric accused me of having sex with Charles, I answer. What? Mrs. West and Charles both exclaim in shock. Mrs. West proceeds to ask me, why would Alaric do that? Because he saw me exiting Charles' room early in the morning, I say while I continue to eat my breakfast. What were you doing in Charles's room early in the morning? I tell her everything about not being able to sleep last night, about what I talked with Charles, and about what Alaric said to me this morning. I hadn't intended to sleep in Charles's room, I say. I don't know when I fell asleep. Alaric is jealous, Mrs. West states as a small smile creeps onto her face. And he's going to kill me, Charles comments. Charles, Alaric is not going to kill you, Mrs. West assures Beta Lewis. Then she tells me happily, Alaric is jealous, which means that he has feelings for you. He wasn't jealous. He was rude, I say. Just then, Alaric enters the kitchen. He glances in my direction for a few seconds, then proceeds to go to the refrigerator. He opens it and takes out yesterday's leftover, and then dumps the contents on the plate which he has taken out from the cabinet. Then he leaves the kitchen with his food. Obviously, he doesn't want to have breakfast when I'm present in the kitchen. Soon Mr. West enters the kitchen. Why is Alaric eating in the living room? He asks all of us. Well, because of me, I answer quietly. I hear Mr. West giving out a frustrated sigh. I can feel him getting angry, and somehow I know that he and Alaric will soon end up arguing with each other. Before Mr. West can leave the kitchen, I stop him. Please have breakfast with us. I kindly request him. He knows that I'm trying to stop him from arguing with his son. I'm relieved when he doesn't leave the kitchen and decide to have breakfast with us. When we are all done with our meal, we assemble in the living room because Mr. West has something important to discuss with us. We all stand in a semicircle while Mr. West is standing facing us. He starts saying, as you all know, Chriselda is Alaric's mate. Oh please, Alaric sarcastically says. Mr. West shots him a look which silences him. Mr. West continues, Chriselda will be staying with our pack for a while. Everyone in our pack will be wondering why the beta of our neighboring pack is staying here. We'll tell them that she is here to learn some of our defense techniques and skills. Why can't we tell our pack that she's our Luna? Charles asks. That's because my ignorant son is not ready to accept the fact that Chriselda is his mate, Mr. West answers. She is not my mate. Alaric says angrily as he leaves the pack house, slamming the door behind him. The door comes off its hinges and falls on the ground. I think we need a new door. Everyone, proceed to Alaric's study, Mr. West says in his voice laced with authority. He is really angry with his son's behavior. We are quick to obey him. We all go to Alaric's study and wait for Mr. West. When he enters the study, he closes the door behind him. His anger is gone and he looks composed, for which I'm grateful. If we tell the pack that Chriselda is Alaric's mate, then he will be quick to deny it. And I'm afraid that our pack will believe him and think of Chriselda as someone who is claiming to be his mate. And people will think of me as another Angelina. I finish for him. You know about Angelina? He asks. Yeah, she does, Mrs. West answers for me. So we can't tell our pack that Chriselda is our Luna. We'll have to keep it a secret for now, Mr. West concludes. We all agree with him. He turns to Charles and Daniel and tells them, inform everyone in the pack to gather in front of the pack house in about an hour. I have an announcement to make. Charles and Daniel nod. They both leave the study. After an hour, I find myself standing beside Mr. West at the pack house's doorsteps, facing his pack members who look clueless as to why they have been told to assemble here. Mr. West gestures towards me and says, this is Chriselda Turner, the beta of our neighboring pack, the Night Guardians. Everyone is shocked after learning that I'm beta of a pack. I guess it's the first time that they're seeing a female beta. She's here to learn some of our defense techniques. I hope you all will be welcoming to her. Treat her like family. I can't escape all the curious looks that are thrown in my direction. Disperse, he commands his audience. The pack members scatter towards the direction of their houses. Now it's just me, Charles, Daniel, Alaric's parents and Alaric himself left standing. Alaric looks annoyed because he was forced to attend this gathering by his father. Mr. West and Mrs. West are standing side by side facing us now. It's time for us to go, Mr. West says to us. We all slightly nod at him. Mrs. West approaches me and takes my hands in hers. It was really nice meeting you, she says with a smile. Same here, I say, smiling back at her. She pulls me in a hug and whispers, you are perfect for my son. I refrain myself from rolling my eyes. Perfect is not the key word when it comes to me and Alaric. If Alaric would have heard his mother's words, then he too would have rolled his eyes. Mrs. West and I pull away from the hug. We say our goodbyes and Alaric's parents leave and go to their house. We get back inside the pack house. I'm the last one to enter. I close the newly fixed door behind me and join Charles and Daniel on the couch, sitting between them. Alaric has gone to his study. Obviously, he doesn't want me anywhere near him. We're having fighting practice in the noon. You'll be joining us, right? Charles asks me. I'll have to, I reply. For a few minutes, silence falls in the room. But soon that silence is broken by Charles as he asks me randomly, what's your age? 19, I reply. So, what's your story and how did you become a beta? I start telling them my dad died in the Silver Moonstone battle, which your alpha interrupted. Realization crosses on the beta and the gamma's face. They now know which battle I'm talking about. I continue, my dad died and there was no male member in my family to take over the position. So, I had to step up and take responsibility. When I finish telling them, Charles asks me, weren't people against you becoming the beta of your pack? They were and they still are. I say as I give out a humorless chuckle. I think you're the first beta who is a female, he says. Usually, the pack doesn't allow a female to become a beta. It makes the pack look weak. Not that I mean that your pack is weak, he corrects himself quickly. I smile to myself after hearing his words. I don't know why people think that she-wolves are not capable of taking up positions. People just think of us as breeding machines, I say. I don't think of you as a breeding machine. You're much more than that. You are brave. You are courageous, Charles says with seriousness. You're being too kind, I say with a smile as I look at him. For a few seconds I continue to do so. Why are you looking at me like that? He asks awkwardly. He's feeling uncomfortable under my gaze. I wish you were my mate, I say. Charles and Daniel are both surprised after hearing my words. You are so good to me. Why did I have to get Alaric as my mate? I asked to no one in particular as I bury my face in my hands, cursing my fate. Chriselda, Alaric is a good person, Charles says. He doesn't seem like a good person to me. I honestly say as I remove my hands from my face. I just wanted a loving mate, but all I get is a mate who doesn't even respect me, who is rude to me, and most importantly, who does not even acknowledge me as his mate. Chris, some things happened in his childhood that made him what he is today. He was not born as a cold-hearted person. A sudden knock at the front door interrupts Charles. I'll get it. I get up from the couch. I don't want to hear any more about Alaric. I answer the door. I find a girl standing in front of me who is smiling at me. She has a backpack with her. When I look at her face carefully, she looks familiar. She looks like Alaric. Is she who I think she is? Hi, she says cheerfully. I'm Alaric's sister. I was right. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and start your adventure with the pack.